Acetone, a chemical used in paint thinner, is dangerous if inhaled. It can cause irritation to the skin, eyes, and respiratory system. Pesticides contain toxic chemicals, such as cyanide, that kill insects and other pests. Arsenic used to be a key ingredient in rat poison. Benzene is an additive in gasoline. Its use has been restricted because of its potential harm to humans. Carbon monoxide is a colorless, odorless gas in automobile exhaust that can be harmful and even fatal if inhaled. Ammonia is the key ingredient in many cleaning fluids. It is irritating to the skin and harmful to the lungs. All these substances can be found in a single commercial product consumed by millions of people: tobacco. There's a lot more in a cigarette than just tobacco. The tobacco inside each cigarette has been sprayed with hundreds of chemicals that control how the tobacco burns, how it smells, how it tastes, and even how addictive it is. Altogether, tobacco contains about 4,000 chemicals, including at least 200 that are poisonous and 60 that are known to cause cancer. Why would anybody want to inhale this stuff? Because it is highly addictive. And it is addictive primarily because of just one ingredient: nicotine.
Nicotine, an alkaloid found in the nightshade family of plants.
An alkaloid found in the nightshade family of plants. All we really need to know is that nicotine is why we smoke. It's highly addictive, by some measures more addictive than cocaine or heroin. It's so addictive, in fact, that some people get hooked after their first cigarette. Cigarettes are a highly effective delivery system for nicotine. The puff that a smoker inhales reaches the lungs almost immediately, and from there, nicotine is absorbed into the blood and carried throughout the body. Within 10 seconds of drawing in a puff, nicotine reaches the brain. Once there, nicotine increases the release of a naturally occurring chemical in the brain called dopamine. All addictive drugs, including heroin, cocaine, and meth, stimulate the release of dopamine in the brain. Dopamine is a big reason people take these drugs, because dopamine makes us feel good. Nicotine also has other effects. For some people, it calms them down, makes them feel less stressed. And some find that smoking helps them concentrate better. So what's wrong with smoking if it's pleasurable or makes you feel less stressed or helps you concentrate? Several big things. First of all, a single puff of a cigarette now and then isn't enough. Once we start smoking, we need to smoke more and more to get the same effects. Another thing, if we've been a smoker for a while, we feel miserable if we don't have our dose of nicotine. So we puff again, and again, and again, just to avoid feeling miserable. The average smoker, in fact, inhales about 300 puffs a day. And finally, while cigarettes are an efficient way of delivering nicotine, they are also an extremely dirty delivery system. It's not just nicotine that we inhale.
Tar, resinous, partially combusted particulate matter produced by the burning of tobacco in the act of smoking.
Resinous, partially combusted particulate matter? Translated, that means tar is the brown, sticky substance that we can actually see. It's the stuff that is left behind on the end of the cigarette filter. It's what stains a smoker's teeth. It coats everything it touches with a brownish yellow film, including a smoker's lungs. How much tar gets into the lungs? This is the amount of tar inhaled by an average pack-a-day smoker over the course of a year. About a quart. Tar in cigarette smoke paralyzes cilia, tiny hairs in the lungs that filter out dust and other particles we breathe in. Tar also contributes to lung diseases such as emphysema, chronic bronchitis, and lung cancer. The word on tar has been out for a long time. It explains why some cigarette companies have made a big thing out of advertising low tar or light cigarettes. But recently, the president signed a law that gives the Food and Drug Administration the power to prohibit labels such as light or low tar, because these cigarettes are no safer than other kinds of cigarettes. It turns out that low-tar cigarettes may actually increase health risks because many smokers overcompensate by smoking more or inhaling more deeply. Wow, so puffing on a so-called low-tar cigarette means we may end up getting even more of this brown gooey stuff in our lungs. That's something the cigarette companies didn't advertise. But tar is only one ingredient of what is in a puff of smoke. It's the part that we can see. All the stuff we don't see can also harm us. Not many people would want to ingest the contents of gasoline, but one of the chemicals in gas is benzene, and benzene is also found in tobacco. So every time you take a puff, you're also inhaling benzene.
Benzene, a colorless and highly flammable liquid, an organic chemical compound, and a known carcinogen.
Known carcinogen. That means it causes cancer. But wait, there's more.
Because it is a known carcinogen, benzene's use as an additive in gasoline is now limited.
Because it is a known carcinogen, benzene's use as an additive in gasoline is now limited. So let's get clear about this. The government limits the use of benzene in gasoline, but it's still in cigarettes. In fact, cigarette smoke accounts for half of all human exposure to benzene. So what do we know about the health impact? Here are some of the effects. Benzene can damage the central nervous system and lead to dizziness, sleepiness, rapid heart rate, tightness in the chest, tremors, and rapid breathing. And in extreme cases, paralysis, coma, and convulsions. Wait, there's still more. Long-term exposure to benzene can damage bone marrow and lead to decreased production of red blood cells. It can cause anemia, leukemia, excessive bleeding, genetic damage, and negative effects on the immune system. Benzene is a powerful toxin. For that reason, it's also found in some pesticides. Pesticides are toxic. That means they're poisonous. They're designed to kill insects and other pests. But pesticides aren't just bad for insects, they can be really bad for us. Pesticides are used when tobacco is grown, and some remain even after the tobacco leaves are washed. And this means that when we take a puff from a cigarette, we're also inhaling different pesticides like flumetrolin, pendimethalin, and trifluralin. Flumetrolin, pendimethalin, trifluralin? Not exactly household names, but all three can cause cancer. Here's a chemical you probably have heard of.
Arsenic.
That's right, arsenic. The stuff that used to be in rat poison. The poison of choice in countless murder mysteries and real-life homicides. It turns out that arsenic is in pesticides used in tobacco farming, and small quantities of arsenic can be found in tobacco smoke. Here's another common poison.
Hydrogen cyanide, a colorless, poisonous gas.
Hydrogen cyanide is infamous as the gas used in Nazi gas chambers during World War II. It is also one of the toxic byproducts produced when tobacco is burned. It's hard to imagine that anybody would want to breathe hydrogen cyanide into their lungs, but that's essentially what you're doing every time you take a puff from a cigarette. And although the amount of hydrogen cyanide in smoke is small, breathing in even small amounts may cause headache, dizziness, weakness, nausea, and vomiting. The chemical used to preserve this pig is another byproduct of burning tobacco, formaldehyde.
Formaldehyde, an industrial chemical used in a variety of applications, including preserving dead bodies.
Formaldehyde may be useful in a biology lab, but if we smoke it, it's not so good. In the short term, formaldehyde makes our eyes water and causes a burning sensation in our eyes, nose, and throat. It makes us cough, wheeze, and feel nauseated. It irritates our skin. In the long term, exposure to formaldehyde may lead to asthma, nasal cancer, and nasopharyngeal cancer. The stuff coming out of this exhaust pipe is something else that can be bad for us. Carbon monoxide.
Carbon monoxide, a poisonous, colorless, and odorless gas that is produced as a result of incomplete burning of carbon-containing fuels.
Incomplete burning of carbon-containing fuels. That can mean gasoline, but it can also mean tobacco. At very high levels, exposure to carbon monoxide will cause loss of consciousness and death. Now, that's not likely with the amount of carbon monoxide in cigarette smoke, but breathing in even low levels can cause fatigue and increased chest pain in people with chronic heart disease. Breathing in higher levels of carbon monoxide may cause flu-like symptoms, such as headache, dizziness, weakness, sleepiness, nausea, vomiting, confusion, and disorientation. What they make me do to make a point. I'm cleaning this floor with a mixture of water and ammonia.
Ammonia, a toxic, colorless gas with a very sharp odor.
Sharp odor is right. In addition to not smelling good, ammonia can be irritating to your skin, eyes, throat, and lungs and cause coughing and burns. So why would tobacco companies add ammonia to cigarettes? Well, it boils down to the fact that tobacco companies want us to buy lots of cigarettes. And one way of making sure that we do that is to get us hooked on nicotine. As if the addictive effects of nicotine by itself weren't enough, they want to enhance these effects. They discovered that by adding ammonia to tobacco through a process known as freebasing, they could make the effects of nicotine even more powerful. Wow, they really will go to any length to get us hooked. Okay, I know I'm taking a little dramatic license here. But here's a little known fact. The tobacco leaves used in making cigarettes contain radioactive material, particularly polonium-210. Tobacco company scientists spent years trying to figure out a way to remove this substance, but it still remains. While the concentration in polonium-210 of tobacco leaves is relatively low, over time it can accumulate in very high concentrations in the lungs of a smoker. In fact, conservative estimates put the level of radiation absorbed by a pack-and-a-half-a-day smoker at the equivalent of 300 chest x-rays every year. According to some estimates, tobacco radiation is probably responsible for 90% of tobacco-related cancer, particularly lung cancer. Have you had enough yet? No? Okay. There's a group of extremely potent carcinogens called TSNAs, or tobacco-specific N-nitrosamines. TSNAs are linked with oral cancer, lung cancer, esophageal cancer, liver cancer, pancreatic cancer, and perhaps cervical cancer. I think you get the point. But here's something else to consider. Cigarette smoke doesn't just affect the smoker. The smoke from a smoldering cigarette in an ashtray or smoker's hand is called secondhand smoke, or side stream smoke. It too contains benzene, ammonia, formaldehyde, arsenic, polonium-210, and all the other chemicals that a smoker breathes in. And people die as a result. By some estimates, up to 3,000 non-smoking adults die each year from lung cancer as a result of secondhand smoke, and 35,000 to 40,000 die from heart disease. As more and more people learn about what is actually in a puff of smoke, things are changing. Recently, a law was passed that for the first time gives the Food and Drug Administration the authority to require tobacco companies to disclose what is in their products. It could also put new limits on harmful ingredients in tobacco. But in the meantime, if you're thinking of lighting up a cigarette, think about this. Imagine whether you want yourself or your friends or your family to inhale this, or any of these.